Well, welcome along to another day in my Spain and France trip. So I got to Caen, Normandy, yesterday after a visit to the Falaise Pocket Museum, and now I'm going to Pegasus Bridge. That's where my first point of call this morning is. So stick around and stay tuned until after the intro, and I shall see you at Pegasus Bridge. Now, clearly the sign says Pegasus Bridge, but this isn't Pegasus Bridge. Pegasus Bridge is probably the better known of the two bridges, but there are two bridges that are of equal importance: Pegasus and Horsa. Horsa was taken in or around the same time. And why am I starting today's ride here? Well, this is really where D-Day started. A couple of minutes past midnight on the 6th of June. So here he is. This is the man himself, Major John Howard. He led the raid on this area. So on the early hours of the 6th of June, just past midnight, Major John Howard landed here in 3 Horsa gliders, just down to where that gentleman's walking now, and the monument marks the spot where the first one landed, just there. The first casualty of D-Day happened here. The person flying the glider went through the window of the glider and he actually drowned.
I thought I would butt in on my own video because it didn't make an awful lot of sense when I shot the video. Where I'm pointing is the Orne River, and the Orne River Bridge, also known as Horsa Bridge. Pegasus Bridge goes over the Caen Canal. I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it would be to land 3 gliders on such a small, little, tiny piece of ground. Unpowered flight, very, very basic navigation, a compass and a stopwatch apparently. Completely unpowered flight. The mind boggles how brave those men were. Yeah, just how brave they were. It's argued that it was the best piece of flying in the Second World War, bar none, because it was unpowered.
Okay, what I'm going to try and do now is ride down to the 3 allied beaches: Gold, Sword and Juno, and then go up to the American section after that. That's the plan anyway. Not long left Pegasus Bridge, and trying to make my way down to kind of start the landing beaches, and I'm stopped because there's another bridge open. It is that big yellow structure there, so it's kind of hinged from down there and it swings out into the river, making the road. There wasn't just one boat, it turns out there was about 6. So I've been sat here about 20 minutes. Now I know there is an alternative route, but the fact of the matter is I want to get to there, which is literally just the other side of the bridge. So I thought I'd wait. Don't be so pushy. Now I understand why there's the squiggle, because there has to be room for the other cars to wait. Alright. So we're going to cross a stretch of water that Pegasus is on, and you can see, well, hopefully you can see that it's a very, very wide stretch of water. See? And to my right, wow, what a tiny, that's the sea. That is literally the sea out there. You can smell it. You can see the 4 flags, hopefully to my right, and that is Sword Beach. If I can get closer to it, I will. So the memorial just up there with the 4 flags, that's the memorial to Sword. So now I'm guessing they haven't left anybody out. That is 2 British and 2 French flags. So I will verify, but I'm sure that the French and the British landed here. And the famous Piper. That is as close as I can go to Sword. I'm going to head inland a little bit. I thought I'd be able to ride closer to the beaches and kind of ride up along the coast. You can to an extent, but it's not as easy. I was hoping to try and find Canada House. I still am hoping, but so I've been here once on a coach trip, and that's when I saw Canada House. And unfortunately, if you look on Google Earth for Canada House, it brings you to Canada House in England, and clearly that's not the one I'm looking for. So maybe it's just a nickname and not an official name. Anyway, so that was a tram station, and that's what I just saw a moment ago, and that is Canada House. So I'm going to stop and take a photograph of that. So yeah, it's an old tram station. There's still bullet holes in that. And that street to my left is quite a famous street. If you walk up that street there, there's pictures, photographs of the men as they went up that street, and they're members of the Canadian forces. And what I was telling you about earlier, that famous bit where the soldiers were coming off of the landing craft, and as the landing craft doors open, you can see a house, and that's the house there. So I'm going to go around the front of it and take a photograph of it. So I'm looking kind of at an angle across Juno Beach. I'm inside a gun emplacement, and this gun emplacement, if you were to look to the beach, you would see a big piece of concrete. So way off further down there, there's another one of these, and it's a mirror image, except it's facing kind of this way. So if you have two gun emplacements, one here and one here, your guns don't face towards the beach, towards the sea. Your gun faces that way, and this gun faces that way. And what you have is a kill zone. So there's a line of bullets and a line of bullets. So to be able to get up the beach and to get to this gun emplacement, you need to be in this area here. You've already come a long way up the beach to be able to knock out the person who's shooting the gun. And they don't need any more than two guns to cover a huge, huge section of beach. So to literally run up a beach, keeping in mind the tide is in pretty much today. On D-Day, the beach, the tide would have been a lot further out, so they had a lot more beach to run up, and a lot more time to get killed, to be blunt. Yeah, it's a chilling thought. Okay, so I'm leaving Canada House behind and Juno Beach, and now I'm going to shoot up the coast. Double quick time to Arromanches. Earlier in the week I mentioned Mr. James Townrow. Mr. Jim was in the Essex Regiment. He was a captain, and he told my wife and myself that he landed in Arromanches. Arromanches was not, strictly speaking, a landing beach. So the historians will only go by what was written down, I guess. But I'm going to go by the guy who was there. And he told us he landed in Arromanches. Gold Beach, effectively, the perimeter ends at Arromanches. So if you look on the official maps, it won't be recognised as a landing beach. But that's why I'm going to Arromanches and not to Gold Beach, because my wife and I have a little connection with Arromanches through Mr. Jim. So that's why I'm going there. To my right hand side, and in fact the brown sign says Gold Beach. That's Gold Beach to our right. And to be fair, there's a lot of slobland, marshy ground between this road. I'm not sure if this was here in 1944. So let's put that on cruise control. So yeah, I don't know if you can see the sea and the sand, but to try and get all of that infantry and everything to come in on the landing craft, obviously, going back to what I said a minute ago, I know Mr. Jim maintained that he landed in Arromanches, which is 7 kilometres further up. Some of the Essex Regiment and some of the battalions that he was with would have landed in the correct place. So to be able to get from down there into something that you could drive on, walk on properly, that must have been an effort. It must have been an effort. And you had someone shooting at you. You could just about see over there. In fact, they've just gone behind the trees, so no, you can't, but I could. You can see the mulberry harbours. Now, the mulberry harbours, a lot of people don't know about, and I didn't know anything about them. But mulberry harbours were Winston Churchill's idea, and he gave him the idea. He gave the idea to the Admiralty, the Navy, and they said, "Nah, don't want to have anything to do with that." And then he said the same thing to the Royal Engineers, military, and they went, "No, don't want to have anything to do with that." And eventually, someone did build a mass concrete pontoon that could float, and the idea was they were going to bring their own harbour with them and then connect up these concrete pontoons, fill them full of water, they would sink and then stay in place and effectively create a harbour wall. There was jetties, and I can't remember what the name of the metal Bailey bridges, just thought of them. So there's Bailey bridges that would bring the equipment from the ships into shore. There's still part of the Bailey Bridge, and there's still part of the Mulberry Harbour off of Arromanches. But all of that stuff, the Bailey Bridge and the Mulberry Harbours, they actually set off for Normandy on the 5th, and the ships that were coming over to land here on the 6th actually passed them. So if any German reconnaissance plane had flown over the British Channel, they would have seen the Mulberry Harbours being towed this way. Obviously they were towing massive great big concrete blocks behind the ship. Some of the ships were scuttled and sank outside of the wall to protect the Mulberry Harbours. You can see the Mulberry Harbour over there to the right, and if I can find a spot to pull in, I will. But what I've just spotted here on the right is part of the Bailey Bridge. So there it is. There is the Bailey Bridge. Midway down, I'll just turn that off. Midway in the section of the Bailey Bridge, there is a joint, and obviously it floated, so hopefully you can see my hands. So as the sea kind of moved the Bailey Bridge, and as the vehicles drove across the Bailey Bridge, it allowed the movement, and so it didn't snap. So it's a genius idea, really. I'm going to park here for a moment and get my big camera out, and then hopefully you'll be able to see the tops of the Mulberry Harbour, which is over here. I'll give you a bit of an idea of scale, of just how big it is. Anyhow, that is Arromanches, just down below where those people are. They are looking kind of down onto Arromanches itself and the seafront. So it's starting to come around. You can see the headland. Right, now that's not a rock. I'll zoom in on that. That is part of one of the pontoons that made up the Mulberry Harbour. Now I'll zoom out again and I'll go just over there. That's another one. You'll see them dotted along, but they made up a complete wall all the way around. They have actually taken some of them out and gotten rid of some of them. So I'll start to zoom back again. There's one there, just with the breakers. So just where you can see that white line, that's not a wave, that's literally just the wave breaking over the top of the Mulberry. Yeah, again there's another one. There's another 2 or 3 there. I'll pan out all of the way now. You can see they've come all the way around. Now I'm going to pan out all the way. You can just about see them in the distance. So the reason I've panned out so you can kind of just about see them, so I wanted to give you an idea of scale. It was massive, and I knew it would need to be massive to bring in
artillery, resupply of men, resupply of every piece of equipment that they would want to keep on fighting the fight after D-Day. So this is not just so much on D-Day, because the mulberry harbours weren't really built properly until after D-Day, but the mulberry harbour was very, very important. There you go.